Hey guys, welcome back to Behavior Strategies for Class. This is where we empower educators with effective behavior management strategies that work so you can teach. And today we're going to talk about some micro interventions that you can do that will help make your job easier. And so, are you ready to set up your class to make your job easier, right? Little changes can have a big impact, turning your overwhelm into empowerment in your classroom. So, this episode is going to give you tools that you can begin to use today. But before we get started with that, I want to check with you and ask, are you struggling with classroom management, classroom behavior management? Well, you can discover Becoming a Behavior Pro, Mastering Challenging Student Behavior. This is the ultimate online course for educators seeking classroom control, trauma-informed strategies, and student behavior solutions. This is truly designed for teachers, school professionals, and this is evidence-based training that will help you understand the root causes of disruptive behavior. You're going to learn how to apply proactive classroom management techniques that reduce stress and improve your students' outcomes. You'll also build a toolbox of behavior intervention strategies for emotional regulation and impulse control. So, whether you're dealing with student defiance, meltdowns, or inattention, this course will provide clear, compassionate solutions, and it was created for you. This is going to help you become the educator who responds with skill, not stress. So, check out the link in the show notes and you can sign up and be ready for when this course becomes available. I can't wait to share this with you. Welcome to Behavior Strategies for Class. I am Diane Bachman, your behavior paraprofessional with over 15 years of experience working in special education. And I'm so glad you're here because I'll be teaching you about social emotional learning, behavior strategies, trauma-informed care, and more. So if you are tired of being frustrated and not knowing what to do with your students who have challenging and disruptive behavior, you're in the right place. Now, if you're ready to become more equipped to help your students learn and grow, let's listen in to today's episode. So some little changes that we've done in our classroom with our students is by kind of limiting their break choices, their amount of snacks throughout the day. Because sometimes when they're just given kind of a blank slate, it can be overwhelming, or they sometimes just take advantage of that. And so we were able to make some of these these little changes with our students. And it really helped because, like I said, it can be a little overwhelming for them to come in and have 25 different choices they can do for a break. And then they only have 5 minutes. And so it's like you're taking up half your time trying to decide what to do. And so we just decided just to narrow down what are their choices, what can they choose from, and then reminding them of their time limit. And it really did help them focus in more on what they wanted to do and were able to do for their breaks. And also for their snacks. We had some students they could eat all day. I mean, I'm sure you've had students like that. They want to be eating all day. They could snack. They don't really actually eat lunch, right? They're just the snackers, all day long. But obviously we have to limit that. We get a budget from the district. We get a budget from our school, I believe. And so we're able to order those snacks. But obviously if we all inhale them in a couple weeks and they're supposed to last us a couple months, that's no good for anybody. So just kind of limiting some of their choices. They still had a choice, We're not taking that away, but kind of limiting that. So just kind of toning in on giving them micro changes so that it doesn't seem and be so overwhelming for them. So there's a few different areas that I'm going to go over today that you can do some micro interventions that really will make a big difference with your students. So, number one, we're going to talk about emotional regulation and connection. I know these are definitely buzzwords. You're hearing them all the time, but they truly are important for you and your students. So, one way that you can help with their emotional regulation is by naming the emotion. And sometimes you have to name it for them. Like, especially if they're younger, they're still, obviously learning and growing who they are and helping them identify what is that emotion. And so you could say, I can see you're really frustrated right now. Do you want to take a deep breath together? And so by you using that vocabulary, that builds their emotional vocabulary. Another way you can do this is by getting a 2-minute check-in. Ask students to rate their moods at that time. And sometimes you could do this in the morning and the afternoon, or you just want to do it once a day and whenever it is. So you can say, okay, rate your mood 1 to 5 and let them hold up their hands and then follow up with a quick, what might make you feel 1 point better? And just picking a couple students and having them share what could they do to make them feel better? Or, just challenge themselves a little bit more. Another way to help with emotional regulation and connection is by creating a silent signal system. So some teachers do color coded, and so just a red and a green, like super simple. On one side is red, on the other side is green. She laminated them, cut them out. All of her students got them, right? Instead of just like, the quote unquote behavior students or those who struggled. She passed them out to the whole class because we know all of our students can have tough times, tough days where they're frustrated, they're mad, they're sad, where they're overwhelmed and they're really struggling trying to focus in on their work. And so that's okay. So when you have this silent signal system, those students can raise up, say, a red card. And so, and this is something that you can work together with your students. So one, red could be, I need a break. Red could be, I need to go sit in the quiet corner or the calm space, whatever it is. Red could mean, I just need a couple minutes to myself. Red could mean I need to talk to the counselor. I don't know, whatever it is that works in your classroom, what you think maybe your students would need the most. And then green, I don't really remember what green was. So maybe it was just a red one. Sorry, I totally spaced it on that one. But I know she made color-coded cards for each of her students so that each of them could feel comfortable in saying, you know what, this is how I'm feeling right now. I need this. So instead of having to stop whatever it is that you're doing and then have this 10-minute conversation with your student to figure out what's going on, they can just pull up the card and you guys already know what that communicates. And then they know what to do, or you know what to do, for that student during that time. So that truly has been helpful, even though I couldn't remember exactly all of it. but it is a great way that you can use nonverbals in your classroom. So a second area that you can do some micro interventions is through cognitive and behavioral supports. So one of the ways you can change or have a micro reframe is like when a student is feeling bad about themselves. And I see that quite a bit. Like, I'm just stupid. I'm never going to get it. This is too hard. I'm dumb. All of these things. I'm really bad at this. It's changing the mindset, and that's changing the wording. And you're just saying, like, you know what? You're still learning. And that's okay. That's different from being bad at it. Right? Nobody learns something and then does it perfectly right after just learning it. Right? So it's reminding them, like, yeah, this is challenging, this is hard, but that's because you're just learning it. That doesn't mean you're bad at it, you're just learning it. Another way that you can help with behaviors is before transitions, giving that warning time. And I believe it was in the last podcast, I talked about having those timers for transitions. Those really make a big difference because students know, okay, once that timer goes off, like this book is put away and I'm lining up with my lunch for lunchtime. Or, I'm putting this away and now I'm going to get my math workbook. So they know, there's X amount of time, and when that timer goes off, they know the expectation of what needs to happen then. And then you can also remind them and say, you know what does a calm transition look like? And that helps prime them for what regulation, how to keep themselves in check and keep themselves under control. Another way that you help with cognitive and behavioral supports is anchor statements. So you can say, you know what, you're safe here. We can figure this out together. And mistakes are a part of learning. It's really cool. One of the teachers I worked with last year, she would take time and say, okay, what was the mistake you made today? Totally reframing, rechanging the mindset of mistakes, right? Because we've all been there where we just feel so horrible that we made this mistake and, life is over and we don't know how we're going to go on, but to realize like it's okay and everybody makes them. So it was really exciting, and these were younger kids, and she would be like, well, what was the mistake? And then, of course, the follow-up is, and what did you learn from that? I think that's super exciting and super, and sometimes super challenging for your students. For them to really change that mindset, like, oh, wait, what? We're talking about my mistakes? When normally we want the happy stuff, right? We want to celebrate those happy stuff. We want to hear those happy things that are happening. But it's okay too to take time and be like, okay, what are some of the mistakes you've made maybe this week or maybe yesterday? And what did you learn from that? I think you'll be amazed at how your students will respond. So those are anchor statements. So another area that you can have micro interventions is through like some visual and environmental like tweaks in your classroom. So you can dive deep really into color psychology and the way different colors make people feel, and what do you want in your classroom, right? How do you want your students to feel when they're in your classroom? And you can go in some, and it's great. Like the teacher's happy, they're kind of energetic, and so there's some bright colors going on. It's really amazing because you truly can feel that difference in the different classrooms. And then other classrooms, they have like, the warm colors, the neutrals, and you do feel more of like a zen when you walk in there. And then others are kind of in the middle, right? Where they have some of those neutral colors, but then they also have some pops of maybe some brighter colors throughout the room and in different spots. And that's okay. But it's knowing that those can be calming reminders. You can have those affirmation posters, getting those calming colors of greens and blues and cream, really, even those soft yellows, they really just give a very cool zen in your classroom. Then you can also have those micro zones. So this one is talking about not necessarily a calm corner or a quiet space, but maybe just a little table or a little bin that a student can go to and look at maybe an affirmation card or look at some calming pictures. Maybe you just have some picture books back there of the ocean or the mountains or animals or food. I don't know. Something that you think is calming that your students would like. And maybe they just pull a card and they sit there for a minute and read that card to themselves. And then they just go back to their... I think that's a great idea. I really have not heard that. Micro zones. And I mean, I know your classrooms are not huge, but that would be kind of cool, like to have 2 or 3 different places in your room where your students could just walk over, pull a card, and have it just say, you know what, you're amazing. Or one of our favorites is, you can do hard things. So many of our students would always be like, this is so hard. This is really hard. I don't want to do it. It's hard. It's hard. I get it. I get that it's hard. But you can do hard things. Again, it's just kind of reframing. And so to have a little space in your room where students can walk over and just grab an affirmation card, I think that's really cool. I would encourage you to check it out. Try it. Another way that you can make some tweaks visually and environmentally is through just posting simple visual schedules, visual checklists, like especially near, in the beginning of the school year, the checklist, like the morning routine, because a lot of students, they have got their backpacks, water bottles, lunchbox, jackets. Where does all that go? Where does their homework go? And so sometimes just having a checklist out, it's something you don't have to repeat 500 times every day, every morning. It's already posted on the board. All they need to do is go up and look, and they know, okay, do I have this? Do I have this? Whatever it is. And they get it done. It really helps to reduce anxiety for kids. And again, it creates that calm because they know that routine. They know the predictability of what's going to happen when they walk into class in the morning first thing and what they need to do. Now, granted, there's still going to be students who need reminders. They need little gentle reminders again. Because, sometimes we walk in and we see our friends and now we're chit-chatting and we totally forgot we had something else we had to do. And so sometimes there are just little reminders. And it's not so much like telling them exactly what to do. We have learned to say, okay, so what's next? What do you need to do next? So you're giving them a little prompt, a little push, but ultimately they're having to think through, okay, what is it I have to do? They're not waiting for the adult to give the answer. You're giving them a little nudge, but they still have to do the thinking and the figuring out of what needs to happen next. So I really like that, being able to say, okay, what's next? What do you need to do next? Those are great, gentle reminders. Okay, and the last area that you can incorporate micro interventions is through relationship and belonging. So, some micro acknowledgments. So, this is where you're going to greet your students in the morning, greet them by name at the door. And really, the words, I'm so glad you're here today, really are powerful. And actually, I mean, that could be any time throughout the day, right? Because your students are going to transition, back and forth through different classrooms, through different classes like specials, PE, lunch, recess. Some students are going to speech, some are going to, OT, occupational therapy at school. So kids are going in and out all day long, really. For the most part, once school gets going, all these different interventions are happening. And so you will have plenty of time to greet your student when they walk back into your classroom, really at any time during the day. And just reminding them, you know what, I'm really glad you're here. And that goes a long way too for some of our students who are in the behavior program and they've had to leave, the gen ed class because of their behaviors, and now they are regulated, ready to get back to learning. And it goes such a long way to have you greet that student and just say, I'm glad you're back. And then go about your business, right? It doesn't have to be a huge ordeal, time suck for you. It's just an acknowledgement, recognizing this student is back in my room. He's regulated. I don't have to talk to him for 45 minutes rehashing what happened in my classroom, but just acknowledge, I'm so glad you're here. This is what we're doing right now. You need this book or whatever it is that's going on. And then, go about your lesson or working with the other students or whatever it was you need to do. Just saying, I'm so glad you're here with a smile, as much as you can, really does go a long ways. Oh, I love this too. So, sorry, I'm just checking my notes. An affirmation chain. So you can ask your students to write one kind word about a peer on a sticky note and pass them out anonymously. So you can have a student, so everybody's doing it all at once. And I think that's the best way to do it, so that, obviously, Susie isn't sitting at her desk and waiting for you to come over and give her a Post-it note, right? Everybody's up and around and putting sticky notes on people's desks. And then that's it. Like, you don't even have to, have them read it out loud. I think just being able to have them pass it out, I mean, that does not take long, guys. So even these micro interventions, they are not consuming all of your day. So just doing little changes makes a huge difference with your students. And having them, and obviously that doesn't have to be done every day. You could maybe do it once a week, once every other week. I don't know, even once a month. What works for your schedule? but it will make a huge difference and continue to build that belonging and community in your classroom. And then you can have a mini story to share that connects with the lesson that you're teaching. I can't even really think of anything right now. Maybe you're helping them write about a funny thing that happened to them over the summer. And maybe you can come up with a funny thing that happened to you over the summer. I mean, that's a really easy one. Maybe you're working on a science project and you can remember when you worked on your science project and maybe how it didn't work out right and how you struggled to finish it and how, your teammates weren't doing their work, or I don't know, something like that. Something like that helps to build that connection, because when you give your little personal stories here and there, you're building trust and relevance for them. So they're beginning to see you as like human, right? As like you've been through stuff. You've had some crazy silly stuff happen to you, and they can relate because some of that has happened to them. And so that, again, like I said, that is a way that you're building trust and relevance with your students. So which one of these, or maybe multiple of these micro interventions, are you going to use in your classroom this year? And maybe you try one a month, or maybe one a week. And you begin to see the change in your students. You begin to see how your classroom is growing and connecting together and really relating and encouraging each other, building each other up, helping each other out when somebody is struggling, and having their peers come alongside them to help them out without you even asking. Right? Isn't that so exciting? I mean, we all love that when our kids would do that, right? When our kids would come in and they would see, I don't know, like the dinner table still hasn't been cleared off of dirty dishes, and maybe they were in the room, now they came back out, and now they're just going to go start clearing off the table without me even asking them to do that. We get so excited when they make that initiative to step up and help out without being asked. And that is something that can truly be celebrated, that you can truly point out and say like, oh my goodness, Sam, that is so great that you were able to help. I just have a Johnny. That's all I can think of, to help Johnny, with his math. Because, sometimes they learn easier or faster with their peers instead of us adults. Sometimes, just saying. Or maybe it's just the way that they can kind of, explain it a little bit better to them at that time. And that's okay. And that's great to see how they can encourage each other, because the more you build, take that time, do these little micro interventions, you are continuing to build that community and that belonging for all of your students. So again, which one of these or multiple of these will you implement to make your job easier this year? Okay, so now on to our question segment. The question is, where do you document behaviors? So we have a few different places that we have used throughout the years. One place is on OneNote, and that makes it capable for others to add to it. I know you can do that through a Google Doc in your Google Drive and share that with your team. And so if that student is in another classroom and somebody else sees the behavior, then they can go in and document what the behavior was. So basically, if you can find out what the antecedent was, so what was happening before the behavior happened, what the behavior was, and then how long did it last, and what was the consequence. You can document also in a notebook. We've just used notebooks for each of our students. We've also used an app that I cannot remember the name of it. We have an iPad, and so we had put this app on the iPad. However, for us, the iPad was not super convenient because when a student is escalated, our job is to make sure that student is safe and those around them are safe. So the first thing on our mind is not like, wait, let me grab the iPad so I can document this. We have to get to that student and make sure that student is safe and those around him and or her are safe. So the iPad didn't work super well, but if we remembered and once that student was regulated, we could go back into the app and mark down his behaviors. Another way we documented behaviors was through their own individual behavior chart. And so that displayed their behavior for the day. And that was in like time blocks. Was it during specials? Did it happen at recess? Did it happen at lunchtime? Was it during math? And so then we can see again some of the antecedent, what the behavior was. We don't really write down the time on a behavior chart, but at least we document the place and what the behavior was. So those are some areas that we documented behaviors. I don't know if you guys have something different. And if you do, we would love to hear about it because maybe that is more helpful for somebody else. So being able to share again and learn and glean from each other is super helpful, as again, we are all in this together. So thanks so much for listening, guys. Don't forget to sign up and be the first to know when Becoming a Behavior Pro online class becomes available so you can learn how to master your students' challenging behaviors. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for listening. I truly appreciate your support. And if I have encouraged you, motivated you to continue to learn, to support your students, even better, to help them strive in your classroom, please leave a review, hit that subscribe button so that others can see they can learn and grow here as well. Thank you.